Mackenzie.
Lamar.
I'm projecting as if we're in the theater.
I
to
know,
doing
I know. You
about.
got the glasses are on.
It's a Shakespeare episode, dude. We gotta class it
Yeah,
up in here. Yeah.
yeah. I did nothing to class it up. I'm the same. So,
You're always
sorry.
classy, to be fair. So,
Oh, that's
you
maybe the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
that's the one. That's the nicest. God damn, I've
I
been
don't
mean to
know. You
you.
talk a lot
Okay,
of shit, so
that
I
is
don't
true.
know.
That is true. So, if you guys couldn't tell from the episode title, we are doing Hamnet today, which is how would you describe this, Mackenzie? Like, without spoiling anything?
Oh, wow.
Like,
I
it's
think
loosely based on
it's
actual events,
historical fiction.
fiction. Yeah.
It's historical fiction for sure about the life of Shakespeare and his family and what may or may not have inspired the play that he writes, Hamlet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was the first thing I did when I got out of the theater was like Google how much of this is true, and it seems like it's steeped in things that actually happened, but some of it is making some, leaps in logic of this could make sense, and it does make for a more compelling story.
Well, there's not a lot known about Shakespeare's life. Like
Hmm.
historically, there's just not a lot of information. And so some of the like basics are here, including some big events that we'll talk about. But a lot of it is, yeah, like historians have been filling in the gaps forever because you just don't know a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we are covering Hamnet, and I wanted to just add, do you off the top of your head have a favorite Shakespeare play or work? Like, do you have one that immediately springs to mind? I know you're going to list 18, but can you limit it to like two or three maybe?
He's looking by one, like, can we get it down to two or three, please,
Hmm.
please? Well, number one, bless you for that. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't, that's so hard. Fun fact, have a really beautiful timeline of Shakespeare, all of Shakespeare's work. That is which theater it played at as well. Maybe I'll share a picture on the pod stories. It's really
Hmm.
cool. It like shows where it was at the Rose or the Globe and like where it is in the timeline. So I can look at them to help me think of this. But the first one, and this is such a basic B response that pops into my head, is Romeo and Juliet. I am a tragedy girly. I am a Shakespeare's tragedies kind of fan. I like the comedies, but like they're not as big, not my favorites. And I just think Romeo and Juliet is like not just the work itself, but like all of his works, it just set us up for so many future works that were so powerful. It's like the inspiration for so much. So I really love that. I also love Macbeth. I really love Macbeth. I think that one's great. And I love Twelfth Night. I think the other one would probably be Twelfth Night. I love all of those. And then I love all the sonnets. I am also like a sonnet girly. Like I'm deep in the weeds on the sonnets. But yeah, of the plays, those would be my faves. What about
So
what about
Romeo
you?
and Juliet's number one, though.
I think number one, like again, it's like the first thing that pops into my head, maybe Macbeth, you
Okay.
know?
Okay.
But yeah, I love that one. I basically have that memorized. I'm pretty sure. I've seen it and read it so many times.
Let's
Like,
just skip this episode and you can just perform
and I
the
can just
entirety of
recite
it. Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. No,
I
thank
mean,
you. Unsubscribe.
Shakespeare doesn't get enough credit for the foresight. Like, for him to write that screenplay for Leonardo DiCaprio hundreds of years in advance was just, I'm just so
I'm literally
continuously
joking, you
impressed
guys.
by sorry, guys. Couldn't help myself. Well, I'm going to spin off of that, though. I think Macbeth is my favorite. That's where my head always goes. I think that was the very first Shakespeare that I read in, I want to say, eighth grade or so.
Cool.
And it just struck me with how, to your point, tropes are tropes now, but at one point, it's like, listening to
were
Beatles
original.
songs and what all came from everything they
Yep.
did. When you listen to them now, it's like you've heard it done
Yeah.
a million different ways since then, but remembering that Shakespeare was just original and just cranking these masterpieces out
Yep.
after one after another. And when you read Macbeth and you look at the story that's told there, and even some of the weird like twists that happen at the end, and it's like the original, like M. Night Shyamalan just took that and ran with it. Of like, what if this? And like, what if I just ended everything with a crazy ass twist?
Yeah.
But I think that's where my head goes. And not to spoil our cocktail of the day that's coming up, but I used to go to, it's not open anymore. I think it finally shut down after like, I don't know, 15, 20 years, but there was like sort of an interactive interpretive performance of Macbeth called Sleep No More. in New York City for the longest time, and it was so friggin' cool. It was kind of like an interactive experience. You could walk through. It was all a silent, like ballet-esque performance, but
Yeah.
you were in the action. You could stumble through the 4 floors of this place and follow different characters, and eventually
Yeah.
it sort of ended. But it was this really weird retelling of a combination of Macbeth and Hamlet, I think. It wasn't directed what it
Hmm.
was, but it was called Sleep No More. So yeah,
I
definitely
read
give that.
about it. I never got to see it, but yeah, it sounded really fascinating.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think they started another production after that, but I don't know if it's
Mhm.
going as well as Sleep No More did.
Yeah. I think people, I don't know. I think conceptually people know how impactful that Shakespeare was really impactful on not only writing, performance and the works itself, but the language. But I'm not sure that people really understand how
Mm-hmm.
impactful. Like, I mean, this is an author that is in some ways largely responsible for the foundation of our English language as we know it today, like established words and meaning that didn't exist, not to mention tropes and story dynamics and all of these things that he identified and established in a way that have gone on for hundreds of years to be used in the same way. So just, yeah, I mean, his impact cannot be overstated. It's incredible. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, excited to talk more about it. All right,
Let's do it.
let's roll. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lamar.
And we are, if you hadn't heard, kicking off a whole new month here on the pod. And to save my brain and eyeballs from breaking, we are doing another Oscars month because we're pretty sure going to do that Oscars run again because I think I'm a glutton for punishment. And, Lamar's helping me out by watching 4 of them as well. So we're going to start with the one that is probably my favorite front runner. I'm just going to come right out with it so far, which is Hamnet.
Yeah, and it already won what, best picture, best dramatic picture at the Golden Globes. So very telling there. I assume its main competitor is going to be one battle after another at the Oscars since they don't split them up, but I don't know. Are there any others that you think will be in the mix there?
Sinners, I think, is going to be a best picture nom. I would be surprised if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, probably. Probably Marty Supreme, even though that pisses me off. We'll get into that later.
Okay. I'm curious to see where that goes.
It's not a performance thing, it's a story thing. Anyway, sentimental value, probably. Okay. Yeah, those are just a few off the top of my head that I think are going to be at least on the list. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. So to get us going for this one, we are drinking what exactly? And kind of not, as we said last week, but we'll get into it. What's the cocktail this week?
Yeah, the cocktail this week, as always, from @CraftWorld. Give them a follow on Instagram to get the recipes in writing if you're not fast enough to write these down as I say them. But this is 2 ounces of gin, half an ounce of sweet vermouth, half an ounce of dry vermouth, half a teaspoon of cassis. I say it wrong every single time.
I think it's cassis, but
cases liqueur, and 1 to 2 dashes of orange bitters. Stir that with ice, strain into a chilled coupe. Orange or lemon peel would be a good garnish here. And as mentioned or teased in the opening of this, we're calling this Sleep No More.
Sleep No More. I'm excited to try it when I am no longer under the weather and all the things. But cheers.
Cheers.
Mug cheers. You're drinking hot cocoa, right? I have tea.
I did. I couldn't do another coffee today because you guys know we do these back to back, and I didn't want to over caffeinate. So I was like, let me get some sugar in my system. That'll be good for the body. Yeah.
I don't know. One of these days, like, we should just let you at it and see what happens. Like, I kind of want to see what that yields. All right, kids, let's do some basics, and then we're gonna get into the. I say good stuff. It is good, but deeply emotional stuff.
This is the most silent movie theater I have ever been in from the front to back of a film, and the amount of sniffles in the last hour of just everyone in that theater welling up and their noses running and like sniffling, it was a lot. It was an experience.
And I think the silence says a lot, which we'll get there. Yeah. But so anyway, Hamnet 2025, 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. as of now. Again, this is currently in theaters and will probably still be in theaters by the time this comes out, just given the run that it's having.
Yeah.
86% critics on Rotten Tomatoes so far, 93% from audiences. That critic score seems low to me, but that's fine. Whatever. What do you think? Is it reasonable? Does it feel reasonable?
It's reasonable. I feel like the critics that probably are critiquing it are doing it for things that have nothing to do with the movie, but what we talked about it being historical fiction. They're probably more like, well, this is a fictional, so it's all the emotion in it. It's the reason people complain about Forrest Gump. Like, Forrest Gump is a movie. I don't love Forrest Gump, but it is a movie designed to pull at your heartstrings through just making this guy's life the most unimaginable, but also simultaneously heartbreaking experience. And it's like, because it's fiction, it takes away a little bit when I think Forrest Gump. So I can understand why a critic might not love this for reasons that have nothing to do with actually what's on the screen, which I don't think is fair, but I get it.
I got so distracted by I'm
I don't
sorry,
like Forrest Gump.
I basically froze. Like, I think we've talked about this before. I need a reboot. It is groundbreaking information to me that, one, you don't love Forrest Gump, but two, that people don't like it. Like, on the whole, that people would complain about it.
Because it's so accessible, I think everyone does love that movie, or at least loved it at one point. I think it's a more modern thing of being like, you're kind of exploiting the rules here of just, we're going to introduce this new character, and look, Forrest has a friend. Oh, he's dead. Isn't that sad? Oh, look, this guy's here. Oh, he's lost his legs. Isn't that sad? Oh, he met the president. That's cool. Oh, the president died. Isn't that sad?
Okay, you're giving away all of Forrest Gump, and we did not give a spoiler warning for that. So stop. Oh my God. Okay. Well, again, I got to move on because I could go down that rabbit hole for way too long. Anyways. Okay. Basics about Hamnet. Director here and one of the writers, Chloé Zhao. We've seen her work before in Eternals and probably more critically acclaimed Nomadland. And she did write on both of those as well as direct both of those.
Yeah,
so
Eternals
same
was
thing
okay.
Here.
I saw what she was going for. It was like a fantasy Marvel film, which I respected. It didn't really completely land, but it was good.
You know, my quick theory about Eternals is that we just did not have the lead-in. We did not have the buy-in into those characters. Right. It could have worked if we had spent more than that one film with literally any of them. We're trying to get to know them and give a shit about them all in one fell swoop. And you just can't. It's too fast. So, anyways. Fair. All right. So the source material, though, we got to talk about. Maggie O'Farrell wrote the source novel, Hamnet. I have not read it. I almost read it before the film came out, but I thought I was going to be cramming it, and I was worried that I wasn't going to finish it in time, so I didn't. But I luckily had a warning from my friend who went with me who had read it and was like, bring tissues, be prepared. This is very emotional, blah, blah, blah. So that was helpful. But yeah, the novel is supposed to be really good. So for those of you who have not read it or want to read it, check it out. Cinematography here, I wanted to shout out as well. I think this is really beautifully shot in a number of ways. The cinematographer here is Lucas Zal, I think. I'm not sure. I tried and I couldn't find great pronunciation resources for that. But he did Zone of Interest, which I talked a lot about in a prior Oscar. Yeah. So I've got a couple of those that are peppered in here. Okay. That's one of them that I think is really good. And he comes from that. And then moving right along into the major cast and crew, Jessie Buckley is our lead here as Agnes, or Anne Hathaway as it would be in history, his wife. She did Women Talking, which is another one I've talked about in an Oscars month, and I think is one of the best written films I've seen in years. And so yeah, two of those like right back to back that y'all should also check out as an Oscars reminder, Oscars theme here.
It's funny that she did Women Talking, and then she was also in that movie Men. Not Men Talking, just Men.
Yeah.
And that was a just weird men. One. Very creepy, and like it's a horror film, and it kind of fell apart in the last act for me, but she was great in it, so respect.
She's great in everything I've seen her in. I haven't seen her in enough, I would argue. She's really incredible, but she did, I'm thinking of Ending Things, and she was like supporting also in Judy, which is the Judy Garland story that was pretty well done. But yeah, she's been in a ton of stuff. I want to watch more of her. She's so incredible. Paul Mescal, also real good, this guy. He plays William Shakespeare, the guy, the man of the hour. I actually love that it's kind of not about him, for being honest. It's about both of them. He's absolutely about him. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not like about Shakespeare. You know what I
I
mean?
found that I drew a parallel. It's not exactly the same, but it reminded me of the framing of the novel Frankenstein, this movie, because the movie's called Hamnet. So
Right.
you would think it's about the son, but the son is kind of in the middle third of the story. And then you
Yeah.
have the Shakespeare story kind of bookending that. And then you have the Agnes story sort of bookended. We start with her, and I'm trying not to get into spoilers here, but we start and end with her. And so I find it interesting that they're sort of like built into each other. To your
Yeah.
point, it's definitely not only about Shakespeare here.
Yeah, I mean, and it's about both of them, but it's also, yeah, she's the anchor of everything for sure. But he's done a couple things. He did After Sun, which was also an Oscar nom a couple years back, and then more recently, and what people will probably know him from is Gladiator 2,
Didn't see it,
which
heard bad
I
things.
take quite umbrage with. I think I've mentioned before on the pod, not because of him. I just think they did it wrong. So anyway, but yes, he was in that recently. And then we have Emily Watson, who's been in and done about a million things. She's one of those kind of character actresses who's always great. She plays Mary, and she's done things like Godsford Park, for example, Punch Drunk Love, a few other things people will know her from. And then Joe Alwyn plays Bartholomew, her brother, and we saw him most recently in The Brutalist. And he plays a very different character in there. And then he also did Harriet, which is about the Harriet Tubman story with Cynthia Erivo. If you haven't seen it, also very good. And then we have Jacoby Jupe, who plays Hamnet, our titular character. And I just got to say, this kid, oh my God,
Very
so
good.
good. We'll get into it. But mostly hasn't done a ton yet. He's a kid. He did Peter Pan and Wendy. And then I had to shout out his twin. She's also integral to the story, even though we don't see her quite as much. Olivia Lynn's played Judith, his sister. She's only done like one or two things. I think she most recently was in Pylon. So check her out. Okay, real quick plot summary, and then we're going to go because we got a lot to say. So Agnes and William Shakespeare grapple with grief in 16th century England. A healer, Agnes must find strength to care for her family while processing a devastating loss. So obviously you can already tell it's going to be sad.
It's going to be rough.
Yeah. This is a hefty one. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, turn around. Don't drown. It's spoiler time.
Go see it, for God's sake.
But go see it. Like, yes. And I do think, I will say, I do think this is one of those that you should see in theaters, by the way. Speaking to something you said about the silence in the theater, this is kind of a community experience, I think, actually. It's really interesting to watch this film with people and in that silence, I think.
Yeah, we weren't in a packed theater, but I had Janelle on my right and I could hear her sniffling, and there was a random dude by himself on my left and I could hear him sniffling there, and it was like comforting to be surrounded and be like, this is emotional.
I was sitting next to this older man who, not to go down a rabbit hole, but like might have come from a generation that's like, not about showing emotions, right? This fucking guy was like this, sniffling, wiping his face the whole time. And then at the very end turned to me and he was like, whew, right? That right here. And he like pats his heart and he's like, right here. And I was like, it was so wholesome.
That's a nice moment.
It was a nice moment. And I was like, yes, it was like that. It was, and my other friend was on the other side, of course. And she and I were crying the whole time, but I just thought it was crazy. This stranger was like, whew, this shared experience.
To add some levity here in what is not going to be a very light day, I saw this on Letterboxd. I really do hope that it's a true story. But I wanted to say earlier when you said, the story of William Shakespeare, I was counting in my head, like, how many minutes into this movie are we going to go without saying Shakespeare? They keep referring to him as the poet or this boy, or like, we don't hear
I just
his
love that back
name
then
out
he
loud.
wasn't Shakespeare to anybody. You know what I mean? He's just that fucking guy.
Yeah, he's just that guy over there that doesn't do real work. He's just writing all the time.
Right.
but apparently this person put on Letterboxd, best part of the movie hands down was 1 hour and 45 minutes in when they get to England, when they get to London, and they finally say William Shakespeare, and the lady to my left turned to her husband and whispered, "I knew it." It's like, what? What were you expecting? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What do you
Big
mean?
reveal.
What do you
Big
mean?
reveal. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like the Jennifer Lawrence hot sauce meme, you know? What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh my God. That's so wild. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I also hope that's true. Just,
yes.
We need this to be true today. So, there's so many things we could talk about here. I mean, again, I think I came out with it. I think this is an incredible film. I'll be super honest with it. But I just think that like this comes down to a few core things for me. The performances are huge. We have to talk about those. They're so impactful. But also this character. I don't think you can get away from her character and how I think incredible this person seems and how well she embodies this character. I think that's part of it for me. And then I think like we explore these wild themes of like mental health, you know, connection with the earth and the environment, and then art and how you connect to art as humans and as a form of healing and a form of processing, and the need for it, the human need for that connection, and just that the dynamic of her not being fully understood in her community, and how the events that transpire kind of change her from being this like witch villain to that people don't understand, to just being another person in this community. And it covers so much in a short period of time. So many things happen here, and the grief that's in this story is actually the engine of this story. It drives everything, and it's really fascinating how it's done.
It is the most accurate, maybe not the most accurate, but just it's what the extent to which we dwell on death in this, and a singular loss, to be honest, like one death, it feels the most close to real life. Of like, it isn't in most movies, character dies, you get a 10-minute mourning scene or a funeral, and then the heroes like move on from it and go conquer whatever. In this, we dwell on a lot of sadness even before we get to the death, and then even after that, there is another 60 minutes of the film where people are processing and having these cathartic experiences. I want to save some of this for when we talk about that final play, but it's just the way death feels in real life is how this is being portrayed here, I think.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an oversimplification, I know, but what keeps coming up for me as I think about this film is that it's just so human. It's so deeply human. It's so representative of the human experience, and it's in such a just genuine way. It's so authentic, and I don't think there's anybody, and that's why this old guy to my right and this younger woman to my left are having the same experience, because I think it's something that literally everyone can relate to.
Loss.
Loss and that feeling of, you know, community in that moment, or lack thereof, right? It can go either way, but so it evokes something from you of what that experience is like, and all the feelings that come out of it, and the way this production has been put together. The production design, soup to nuts, of this film again lends so much to the authenticity. You are there, you feel like you're there, even though you're in these two starkly different worlds. And I think maybe we should kick off with that, of like, she is of the earth.
She's in the woods for half the movie. Yeah.
She's in the woods for half the movie, and they're in the country, which is, again, speaking to the historical accuracy, they were in Stratford-upon-Avon. That is accurate of where they lived. And she is represented as being this other. She's referred to as the witch. People don't understand her. He hears about her. He doesn't really know who she is, obviously, but he's
But to
like,
be fair, like, if you are pagan out there, you're gonna fucking love this movie, because the first like 90 minutes is a woman just spitting in the face of God and being like, I trust my magic, and guess what? It kind of works. So
well, and not even, and that my magic is the earth. Like, she, to me, I see her as like, she is just such a pure embodiment of a Mother Earth in human form.
oh yeah.
That's just the way I think of this character, and she does it beautifully. And she's just one with the earth. She has a deep respect of it and a deep understanding of it, and he's enamored by that. He is fascinated by that. And so you have this scene here, this production of like, this is Stratford, and that's the earth, and there's this, the mud and the green and the honey and the dirt and it's tactile and visceral. And then you go to London, where that is all about the city and the dust and paper and candles and like this separate world. And it's just, she creates these starkly different worlds. One is hers and one is his, and they come together in some ways.
But to your earlier point, we don't. This is her story. This is not Shakespeare.
Right.
It's Shakespeare's story through her eyes. So it's really her story. The
Yep.
opening shot, I think, is very telling of that. If we focus, she wakes up in the woods. Like, that is just like, oh,
Yep.
okay, I kind of already know who this character is.
Yep.
She's kind of a free spirit and everything that you just said. We don't get to London again until the last hour-ish,
Way later.
45 minutes. Like this, we
Snippets
don't
of
even.
it.
We keep being told Shakespeare is going to London. He's trying to start this career as a writer. Things are going pretty well. He's coming back. He's leaving. We don't even. She doesn't, I think, understand his reputation and what he has built there, because as he says throughout, like, she's never going to come to London. It's just not her thing. She's not going to deal with the city. She doesn't think the family will survive there. And then she gets there and sees what he has built for them and for himself. And I think that's a very touching moment for her to kind of be looking around and see all these people that are just captivated by her husband's art.
Absolutely. I mean, her coming there and seeing it is such a pivotal moment of the film, but I would argue slightly different. I just think that I think they lie to themselves at first, because they are so different, but they love each other so, so much, and they have different needs, right? Like, there is this core love story here that I think is so beautiful. Again, it is her story, but I think it's so beautiful that they can be so different and love each other so deeply. And he has these kind of moments where we see him like struggle with his mental health, because he needs to do something else. He needs to probably be somewhere else, right? He needs to serve this art that is important to him. And he doesn't really know how to do that here. And that's where he goes, as you said, and builds this beautiful life. And we don't see it. We don't understand what's happening and how good he is at it and how good it is for him in all of those ways. But she gives that to him. They're kind of lying to themselves for a while that she's going to come. And that's sort of how she's giving it to him. Like, we're going to come follow you. You're going to go there and establish this house in our world, and then we'll come with you. And I think she comes to realize she kind of gave that to him, and she was never going to come. And I think you see them realize that at different moments, and both accept that and accept it in a way that feels genuine, but hard. But still hard, and you don't see that much of it. I think there's this one scene that stands out to me in Stratford still, before she says that, before she decides, hey, you need to go, where he has that night of him trying to write, and he's having kind of that breakdown.
Yeah.
That scene, and just there, like, again, you can feel the love through how terrible a moment that is. Like, she's trying to be his tether and save him from this pain that she believes is there. She doesn't understand it. She just believes it and trusts it and wants to help him with it. And her action coming out of that is, I have to help him. This is too hard. This is too heavy.
And they do such a great job of telling, like, indicating the dynamic of that relationship. It doesn't feel, ham-fisted Hollywood. It feels real when they're having these conflicts, and even the time where she's like trying to slap him and he has to just sort of restrain her, but it's not violent. It's more of like an outburst. But I that dynamic, it just feels as though it feels real. Like, you're going to fight sometimes, and you're going to have to like work your way through it, and you're going to resent each other sometimes. But that scene you just mentioned, throughout this film, I found myself, with the exception being, I think, London, and then some of the shots in the woods, I picked up on, and I don't know if this was deliberate, but a lot of this feels like a stage play. I think very intentionally. Like a lot of the sets almost feel
Yeah.
two-dimensional. And that scene specifically, I was watching, I believe it's all a one shot, and it's just him at the front of the frame trying to write, and she's walking into the background, coming back, going back to bed. It's this beautiful shot, and you're just seeing it just speaks so much to not just the directing, the cinematography in this, but their performances, that you're not having to take like 2 lines at a time and cut back and forth between their faces. They're just doing this all in a one go and really crushing the performance. So I loved that part.
Yeah, I think it lends itself so well to give these really authentic connections between the characters. And I think what you're seeing in that scene, you see later for her as well, right? Like the part of their stories here are what brings him anxiety and some claustrophobia almost. And then what brings her severe anxiety and arguably just disconnection. You see her untethered from her world, her earth, when she goes to London, and that how hard that is. And they both have these different anxious reactions and coping mechanisms to those situations. And in his case, you know, at home, he's drinking, and he's not dealing well with it. And fun fact, Paul Mescal got drunk for that scene because Chloé Zhao asked him to, was like, I want to shoot this as real as possible. So not only is he actually drunk, the actor, he's embodying the character who's using this drinking as a coping mechanism. And then she goes to London and she has these different coping mechanisms. You see her shell inside of herself in a way you have not seen up to now. She shrinks. She's trying to shield herself. She doesn't understand this place. She's angry, arguably. You see this anxious anger out of her, some anxiety there. And then she's just confused and overwhelmed. This whole place is confusing to her. And their performances are incredible to get these things across with many cases, no words, right? Like that's all physical. That's all just, they're giving you that in just the embodiment of these characters.
Yeah. On the way out of the theater, I said to Joe, I was like, I don't know which Oscar, and this was before the Golden Globes. I was like, I don't know which Oscars this will eventually win, but I think she's a shoo-in for Best Actress. Like, I don't even need to see the other nominees. She was just so fucking incredible.
If she doesn't win Best Actress, it'll be the most insane Oscars decision. I say this with all sincerity. The most insane Oscars decision I have seen in anything I can remember. Like, again, I can think of several other films that are maybe going to be put up for this. And to your point, I don't even need to see the rest. This is one of the best performances of an actress I've ever seen. And I think, if she doesn't win, it would be a shock. And he is incredible as well. He's only outshined because of how great she is. We can't ignore how incredible she is, but he's also incredible in this role. It's just that she just takes it to this other level. And I think that, again, like coming back to her character sense of self, at least for me, is a big part of that. I think she has just this deep awareness of the character who is at first misunderstood, but by the time you start to really see her and understand her, again, is just the embodiment of the mother, of Mother Nature, of nurturing, of being one with her community, with her children, with, giving and showing care to everyone, to her family. Her relationship with her brother is beautiful. Her relationship with her children is beautiful. Her husband, like the fact that she takes no shit either. Like she has
That's
a whole
what I was going to say.
section.
She has that like stubbornness to her that makes her equally likable and also independent.
Because she knows who she is. That's what I mean. Like her sense of self is so strong and sincere and independent at a time where women weren't really afforded that. And you, again, were seen as other and weird and a witch and all these things. And she just didn't let that change her at all. And she doesn't allow the people who have mistreated her to continue to do that. And I love her relationship with her brother because he supports that for her. I
like that dynamic. I think he's underrated in this because most of the family in this are kind of shitheads in their own ways. Right. We don't need to
but
get
he's
into
her
all
anchor.
Of them, but he's just very understanding of she wants what I love her. She wants what she wants. I'm going to be very supportive. And he does try to question her at times and challenge her way of thinking of how's it going? Like, how is his writing going? Does he have a
Yeah.
job yet? Blah, blah, blah. So he's like taking care of her, but not telling her what to do and still being very supportive.
He's taking care of her as an equal.
Yeah.
You know, he's taking care of her as a family member with deep love and respect for this person. Not a parental or patriarchal kind of protectiveness, but a genuine, pure kind of protectiveness. This is my sister. I love her. She's so capable and brilliant and smart, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to ask her about how these hard things are going and what, you know, so on and so forth. And I think his performance is also really good. But again, I come back to like the relationships that this is predicated on is the thing that makes it so compelling. These characters are so well written and so human again,
Yeah.
you know.
I want to move into like when the waterworks start in this. The last thing I wanted to say about the first, 45-ish minutes, I do like the way that their intro story is told. Now it's this very playful, and again, she's like, I'm not going to tell you my name. Like, I like that just establishes really early on of like how she is, how she operates.
She
but I
respects
love
her
that,
boundaries, that one,
yeah.
you know?
I love the early dynamic. I love when he goes to propose and he's just kind of doing laps, again demonstrating that anxiety of like he thinks he knows what he's sure of, but he's still got like a bunch of nerves about him. And then the last thing I wanted to say was I just feel like sex was sexier in the 1500s. We get one sex scene in this. It's like it's 1564. You run into the girl you like. Neither of you is showered in 6 days or bathed. You drop your like lederhosen or whatever they are. You're like your
lederhosen. Just drop trow. You drop trow.
They're almost. They look like you drop your scrubs. They look like OR scrubs. The pants, your pantaloons. You hike up her 18 pounds of dress. Like, just go to town.
That's
like,
a workout, man. Getting laid in the late 1500s is a workout for sure. Yeah.
Yes. So that's the only joke I wanted to make. Now let's get sad. Let's talk about the turn. Even from when the hawk died,
I was about to say, can we start with the hawk? Like, I'm not, but it is so sad. But I think it's like, again, it's so representative of her relationship with the earth and her just innate understanding of nature and how connected she is to it. And what I love about that moment and that transition is that you see that it continues to honor that. But what it also honors is her new role as a mother, where she has to, in this very just painful moment, try to teach her children about loss. Try to teach her children about grief. And she takes her pain, as so many mothers do, and stifles it and channels it into a moment where she can love them and show them care through this really painful moment. And I think that's so beautiful. And that's like, that's where the waterworks start. And then it does not stop. Like, it
from then
does
on.
not stop. Like, I'm about to cry just thinking about it. It's so, man, it's rough. It's rough, but it's beautiful. And it's also shot, like, just from a film perspective, it is shot so intimately and while still allowing for the environment around you to come through, the colors and the nature of it all, while being really an intimate moment for this family. It's a family loss. It's her loss, but it's a family loss. And I love the dynamic of them loving on her as well, and Will loving on her as well, of like, I know the heaviness that this is for you too.
Yeah, that sequence, and I like that it's a necessary scene for multiple reasons, but it does obviously circle back around, and it's her not just preparing her children for loss and grief, but for death, and letting them know that death is not the end. You shouldn't fear death. And obviously now we can get into like the middle part of this story and talking about Hamnet. Can you tell me off the bat, because I didn't look this up, was Shakespeare's son's name actually Hamnet in real life?
Yeah, so here's the thing about names back at this time, including Agnes or Anne. It was not uncommon for them to have multiple spellings. So in documentation about both of them, their names have both been spelled both ways. So Hamnet was also Hamlet. Like, that's the same name back then. So it's not just him writing a story about a boy and naming it close. It's him putting his child's name all over London,
Hmm.
like honoring this character as his, and making it a representative of his son in some ways. So yes, that is accurate. It is also accurate, what happens. That part of it is accurate, that,
Okay. And I guess that's why she gets offended when they do get to the theater and they say Hamlet and she says, "Stop saying my son's name." That makes a lot of sense with what you just said.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is her son's name in her eyes, and she doesn't, as we see, she doesn't understand why he did it.
Right.
It takes her watching it to understand what he's doing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That middle act where we meet, he has his family, he has the older daughter, they have the twins. We get that really just again rough a sequence of her giving birth to the twins, and you think that they've lost Judith, and she sort of like just will not lose this faith that she has, and Judith survives, but now she knows that one of them will eventually die based on, I guess, some sort of prophecy or something she was told or
Yeah.
heard from.
She is a little witchy. Like, that's
Yeah.
okay. We can call it out. I mean, that's actually a very cool part of her story throughout. I mean, she has the thumb trick that she does multiple times with him and with
Yeah.
others, of like, I can see kind of your soul, or at least the intent of it, the truth, the truth behind your soul by doing this. That's a connection that she finds. And that's how, yeah, she feels like she knows she's going to experience a severe loss. And she's convinced she can stop it from being one of her children, even though she has had this prior vision that at the end of her life, there's only one child at her bed. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
she does everything she can to stop it. She thinks she's going to overcome it. You see her just complete and utter dedication to these moments. And it's
When she's doing
heavy.
I hesitate to call it magic. I don't know what when she's doing the healing on Judith, and she's
Healing
like
herbs. I mean, she's just,
all
yeah,
the things, she's like, "Get me this, get me
remedies.
this, get me this,"
Yes.
and it's just
She's
you can
tapping
see that.
everything
Yeah,
she can think of. The
that like
desperation is there.
yes, that's a good word for it. She's like sweating and a mess, and you can see she hasn't slept, and she's just not giving up on this kid. Which brings us to then the one sequence that I don't know if it was the dialogue. Something felt slightly off. I really like when Hamnet approaches Judith in the bed, and there's that shot where he looks up and sees death, and we just see it from like Death's perspective. I thought that was
Mhm.
very like haunting and made me a little uneasy. I get why we had to have the dialogue of him getting in bed and saying like he's going to make a mistake, I'll go instead of you, like getting across what he thinks in his head of playing hero here. That was the only scene, that the sequence of dialogue, that I wasn't 100%, I was like 80% bought in on. But I guess it is necessary to kind of get us to what happens next.
I mean, especially in the moment, it made sense to me. I
Yeah.
think the thing that we're seeing there is like, there's a twin factor here. Like, we got to
Right.
acknowledge that these two are twins. We show them earlier, and I think it really informs the scene, dressing up as each other and
Yeah.
trying to trick their parents. And it's one of the really cute,
Mm-hmm.
adorable family moments for them, where everybody goes along with it, of like,
Yeah.
Hamnet and Judith have switched spots. And it foreshadows this moment, which is the most terrible iteration of that it could possibly be. And he has this twin connection, obviously, to his sister, and he decides to tap into it, and that he has to protect her. And it's just one of the most beautiful, selfless things when you know that this kid is in utter terror,
Mm-hmm.
seeing this, and it's presented as a plague doctor kind of thing. And it's, it's this horrible image and this horrible visage. And he bravely faces it and takes it away from her. And everything to that point they say the little nodules, like, this is a plague thing. Like, that's it. That's the turning point. You're not going to survive. And he just takes them from her. And it's the performance of this kid.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then you see what happens to her. She wakes up. She's not rested. She really hasn't rested. She's rested for basically what amounts to 30 seconds in this whole thing. And she wakes up and the world has been upended.
Yeah.
And it's just the grief. I mean,
that, and quickly followed by the scene where Shakespeare gets home and sees Judith and is like, oh my God, thank
mhm.
God, and is hugging her, and everyone
Yes.
knows what's
Oh my
happening.
God, that was
And when
so
he has
brutal.
that realization, it just rips the heart out of your chest.
It really does. I mean, again, like warnings abound if you go see this that I do think you should, but
You're not going to stop crying.
you're
Like, you will
not gonna stop.
not.
I'm like, I am struggling right now
Yeah.
talking about it. You know,
Yeah.
she gives a performance that is just you just think she's feeling it. She's
Mm-hmm.
feeling this
Those screams.
unfathomable
Yeah.
that unfathomable loss, those screams. And then yeah, to your point, his pain is equally haunting, but it's actually a truncated version of what she's going through, to be fair,
Mm-hmm.
of like she just experienced, she thinks she has saved Judith, and then the rug is pulled out from under
Yeah.
her, and he has that same exact emotion in the span of 30 seconds. And I think that takes us painfully into the relationship resentment that forms out of this moment, because she has always wanted him in London and she knows that it's good for him and that it's something that she wants for him, but she's angry that he wasn't there. And it's one of those both rational and irrational angers, right? Because she does, again, she wants that for him. She thinks it's the right thing. She hasn't resented it as really up to this moment. But at this most terrible moment of her life, she's now angry about it. Of, I was here trying to save them, and where were you off in London, fooling around? And she again doesn't know if he's like drinking less or any of that. So she writes it
Mm-hmm.
all off as like, you're off partying basically. And she doesn't she's not rooted in reality at that point anymore. She's just in the
I mean,
pain.
she's run ragged.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the fact that he has to turn around, a day or two later and say, I have to go back to London again. That's when they
Yeah.
have that big standoff.
Which
And
is
then
so
we
hard to
do,
see.
yeah.
You're like, you do, I think, identify with her, of course, in that moment of like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean you're leaving?
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that's one of those moments that could be taken either way, of like, you understand why he goes and you also just can't. I think that's one of
Can't believe
those,
it. Yeah.
you just
But
can't believe it.
this I think when I think back on the movie, probably in my head the most underrated part is the time between Hamnet's death and when we get to the play, because during that there's just some incredible setup of, you see Hamnet sort of behind death's veil and we're seeing him on a stage and with this like wooded backdrop, and then that obviously ends up being what's on stage when we see Hamlet's on stage at the play at the end, and there's that black hole in the middle, which we assume is him walking over to death, like crossing death's threshold. But I just love how that mirrors
Yep.
the
The
shots
play.
in the forest, like that hole in the
Mhm.
ground, whatever it is under the tree. But we get that, and then we also get Shakespeare in London for a change, and
Yeah.
you see him processing grief and just having breakdown after breakdown and almost killing himself, it looks like, and then tapping it. That it's just so well told, the story. Like, I don't even know how many other actors have speaking lines when we're in London, but Shakespeare going to that dock and coming up with that I don't, monologue's the wrong word, soliloquy, when he's
Mhm.
performing what will actually end up going into Hamlet, and you can see it's him processing his thoughts of, is this all worth it? Like, I just lost a kid. Is life
Mhm.
really worth going through all this hardship for these bright moments? And it's just great.
Yeah. I mean, there is just there's this very intense processing that is taking place for both of them afterward. And I think the hard part is that they're not doing it together, and it
Yeah.
breeds further resentment and further questioning of why. And I think there's been this divide throughout at this point in the film of London versus Stratford a bit, the different dynamics in those worlds and also the different perceptions of those worlds. And I think right now, up to now, Agnes hasn't had a real tangible connection to it, doesn't understand it, doesn't know what his life is like there really. And the plague was running rampant in London, and the playhouse would close. That was some of the times that he was coming back, was because he didn't have work because the plague was closing the theater. And I think there's this resentment and this potential tension of, did you bring this home to us? You
Oh.
know, and not him, you, like, it's your fault, but you know what I mean? Like, did this come from this back and forth and
Yeah,
these
because
two
she's
different
specifically
worlds?
avoiding
And
going to London because she's afraid for Judith right before her getting sick. I
right,
mean, yeah.
right. And I just think like that was both historically pretty accurate, and it's also emotionally makes sense in the context of this story. And I did want to say on the backdrop that you mentioned of that's so that emulates their home. I think that is such a beautiful tether for them when she goes and she sees this play,
Hmm.
which we get to the point where she doesn't understand how big this is. She doesn't, until that flyer shows up, she doesn't understand how big this is, and she has no intention of going. She's
Hmm.
actually resentful of, like, why are you using our son's death for clout, basically?
Yep.
You know, what is happening here? And she wants to go figure it out. And that set design is one of the things that brings that giant globe theater that is full of all these other people, in which she feels overwhelmed and disconnected. It's one of those things that tethers her, and not just her, but her and him. Like,
Hmm.
it makes this whole thing that is everyone is looking at about them, and makes it really personal. And Jessie Buckley did an interview about where, like, that looking at that backdrop makes her cry, because it was just about their story. It
Yeah.
wasn't about it being on this stage. It was home. You know, it was representative of their home.
The her showing up and like you're witnessing catharsis. You're realizing this is what this is to Shakespeare. This is
Yes.
his opportunity to right some of the wrongs that his wife that he did. You know, he wasn't there to protect or to say goodbye to his son. And so he's putting himself in this role where he specifically gets a scene to say his goodbyes. And it's like heartbreaking to see, and you see her reaction. But when she first gets there, she is like talking and criticizing and telling him to stop. Like, she is not on board until she realizes that is what this is
Right.
how he is processing his grief.
She's the worst audience member
I
ever.
know, we're at the draft house and I'm like, oh,
She would
we
have
gotta
gotten
go.
kicked out of draft house for sure. No, but in all seriousness, like, she, again, this is her anxious moment. She doesn't understand this place. Like, it doesn't resonate with her. And she doesn't think, again, what would you think? He left.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately he left. And he hauled ass to get there, which we don't spend a lot of time talking about here, but you know, he does try to get there. He practically kills himself trying to get there, because he doesn't know for sure, but he actually also has a feeling. He has this kind of deep seated feeling of something is wrong and I have to go. And so he does do everything he can to get there, but then he just leaves, and he hasn't processed this. So what would you think she would feel like? What the fuck is he
Right.
doing with our story in this moment? And he just left. And this is her moment to understand that this is her son. This is her husband, his father, saying goodbye. And I think she needed to see and know that it was that painful for him.
Yeah.
You know, him leaving, she can't see him grieving. She doesn't see him on the dock. You know, she doesn't get to
Yeah.
know that it's breaking his world apart.
Yeah.
She just thinks he left. And this is the moment that she sees that he's as broken by this as her, and
Yeah,
that they can connect again to each other.
Yeah, her saying the like look at me is touching, and then he does turn
Yes.
around and then comes back and hugs, you know, his son, for lack of a better word. Like, I don't know if Paul Mescal's gonna get an Oscar for this, but if he were to, it would be that scene of him delivering that and then going backstage and breaking down, as well as the one we mentioned earlier when he's at the desk and drunk. But I just the amount that happens here, and they really do let you sit with this entire sequence. I think it's probably what 20-30 minutes of this. Like, it's a good chunk of the movie that we spend in this, maybe 20 minutes, but
we spend a lot of time in Hamlet, and I think you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Because you are supposed to, like, connect these moments and these words in a way you haven't before to this story.
And you see that he's making his son the hero that he wanted him to be, and you get the sword fight sequence, which was what his son was always doing. He was training him to do that. So she's seeing he is putting our son rightly up on a pedestal for this performance, and you're seeing all of London applauding and getting on board with them. And I love the little touch that the actor playing Hamlet is it Jupe, you said, his older brother,
It's his
who was
older brother in
he
real
was in
life.
what, Honey Boy and something
Noah
else.
Jupe. Yeah. I can't remember
Yeah,
now,
he's
but
a
yeah.
little grown up now, but it's so cool that they got that casting and they colored his hair to look more
Mm-hmm.
like Hamnet. And I'm getting like, yeah, a
And
little teary eyed thinking about it, but it's just really, really cool.
it is, and he does such a good job, but also that scene in and of itself, I love that we sit with it for so long for all the reasons that you said, but also because I think you see a settling across the scene, to your point of the experience in the theater that you had of it being so quiet, and I had as well, of it being so quiet. That's reflected in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Once she settles and she starts to see what this is about, you could hear a pin drop there.
Yeah.
Right, you hear the creak of the wood of the stage, you see this sword fight, you see the flashback, you see him break down going backstage, you can hear the rustle of the costumes, you can, like, the sound in this moment is so well handled and intentional, and her tapping on the stage and her trying to get him to look, and it's a really beautiful recreation of that theater experience, the way that would have been produced, and also sits you in her shoes and his shoes. And then when they cut to, Hamnet saying
Being
goodbye
on the
there,
stage. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
on the stage, and she understands the catharsis is a perfect word.
No.
She understands the catharsis that's happening, and she's going through it again, but in this time, like, with him. I just think I see this as this moment of them both healing, finally, both, like, they're not okay. You're never going to be okay that you lost your child, of course. But you're going to heal with each other as best you can. And I don't know that they could have done that without this experience. And
Right.
this scene does such a good job of immersing you in that experience
Yeah,
that
when
they
you
have.
get that last, I think it's 5 minutes where you have Shakespeare off stage watching from side stage, and you have Agnes in the front row, and Hamlet is dying, and then you have the simultaneous shots to Hamnet sort of exiting through that dark hole in the forest. And then when she reaches out and does the hand, like, to feel his
She
soul of
holds
the
his hand.
actor, like, God, dude, powerful.
Yeah, like, she couldn't stop herself. That's
Yeah.
how immersed as we were in that moment, that's how immersed she was in that moment.
Yeah.
She's seeing her son, and um and she's getting to say goodbye to him too,
And I
because
think,
again,
correct
she
me,
didn't really get that. Yes, she was there, but she didn't
right.
really get that either.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it after that then because I know he reaches out, then he decides to reach out to everyone, like on every level. And does she turn around and see the rest of the crowd, like, getting on board with it, or am I making that up? I know at some point she turns around and looks at the crowd reacting, so I might be misremembering. But it's her realizing everyone is here for this, and in a way they're all here for my son, even if they don't know it.
Yes. I don't remember physically what she's doing at that moment, but I do remember that coming through. Yeah. Of
Yeah.
she's realizing, like, this is honoring my son's life. And that he wanted this on another level that he talks about in that middle third. He says he wants to do this with his father,
Yeah.
and he never got to. And that Will wanted that too. And it's that last chance for
Yeah.
that to have happened. And so there's just so many layers here. It's really profound.
I really hope we do one battle after another or something funny. I'm like breaking down over here. God.
Y'all, don't listen to this. I mean, I guess we got to wrap this back up to the top, but don't listen to this if you don't want to cry, because oof. Well, anyway, I think all that's, I mean, there's so much, we could talk about this for literally hours. But I think all that to say, like, there's so much to the story and so much to the way it's produced, and to the history here. I mean, we didn't even get into the Globe, like the history of the Globe Theater. The Globe had just been finished. The Globe had just finished. And Hamlet wasn't the first play. It was probably Julius Caesar. Um, but it was the second or third. And he died in like 1599, they think, which is the year that it opens. And then this releases at like 1600, 1601, probably. So he synthesized this. And well, in theory, right? This story is telling us that he synthesized this by creating one of the greatest plays of all time. Of
Yeah.
all time. No holds barred. So it's it's such a creative story. It's such a brilliant historical fiction on the part of the author, and then I think borderline perfectly executed
Yeah,
on a screen.
in my heart, I'm gonna choose to believe, or at least hope, that this is actually how this play was written and the purpose for it. I don't know if that's true, but I'm gonna go ahead and believe it in my heart.
Right. I think I hope that this did for them what we see it do for them. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think, just again, shouting out like the way how the whole production comes together behind these performances is what gives us this, again, like just authenticity to this story.
Yeah. Can I challenge you to do your rating first this week? I'm curious to hear your thoughts before I go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard. I will say one more thing. The other thing I didn't mention at all is the music.
Yeah.
The score to this is really incredible, and it underscores literally the emotions just one for one. I mean, it's so well done. And then there's this one piece that was also in Arrival, which we talked about briefly. It's Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight, and it's actually the reason Arrival was disqualified for Best Original Score. It's appeared in that. It's appeared in Shutter Island. It's this really famous piece of music that I think everybody loves. I think you can't hear it and not love it.
Yeah.
It's very, very moving, and it feels and sounds like a processing of grief, and that's what takes us in this out in this story. And I think it's just the perfect piece of music. And interesting fact is that Jessie Buckley actually suggested it to Chloé Zhao, because she said early on in filming, they were both kind of lost in this story. They started filming in the Globe, by the way, that climax at the end, like they started there, and they were struggling with it in the first few days. And she suggested that piece to her and said it really centered how they handled this story. And she suggested the one with lyrics, because she said the lyrics are just as profound. And I think it comes through, and I think it's telling that it helps inform how this story is told. So anyways, all that to say, 10 out of 10 for me. I can't even, like, I struggle to find a flaw. And I mean, even if there are any things that aren't perfect, I think the storytelling is perfect. Like, the filmmaking may not be perfect. I think the storytelling is perfect.
Yeah, it's one of the best movies I've seen. Well, I mean, it's 2026 now, but one of the best movies I've seen in the last 12 months, for sure. I'd probably go 9.5. I think, like, that one scene of dialogue is literally the only thing that didn't take me out of it, because I'm like, that's how kids think. I could see, I don't know if he was 10 or 11, but I'm like, I could see a child saying that. The only other thing that took the weirdest thing, dude, she gives birth to their first daughter in the woods next to the tree. And then her brother and Shakespeare find her, and she's cradling the baby. And I'm like, how'd she get through that umbilical cord? And then thankfully, all my fears were washed away 30 minutes later when she gives birth to Judith, and there is no umbilical cord. So I guess umbilical cords did not exist in the 1500s. That was like the only other thing in the movie that I was like, wait a second. That kind of took me out of it, but whatever, dude. I'm not a scientist.
She just uses, her little, like, wood knife. I mean, she was cutting herbs, right? She's got a knife somewhere. Yeah. I think she's got it down. Anyway.
But yeah, so I'm going to go 9.5, dude. For first watch, it's goddamn incredible. If I rewatch, and I will rewatch this one, and maybe it'll get bumped up to a perfect 10, but I'm going to start it real high, 9.5.
Yeah, I will rewatch this one, but I will need a breather.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a minute, but it's one of those pieces of art that I think you have to go back and look at. It's so good.
It's an
It's so good.
experience. Like it
It's
is.
an
It's rare
experience.
that a movie feels it's cathartic for Shakespeare. It's cathartic for me to watch
It's
this, and I
cathartic
just
for
think
me. I mean,
everyone should. Yeah.
I looked at these relationships and I saw things I've experienced, right? Like have lost people as well, both, to death this way and other things. And you can't not relate,
Right.
to something in here and really feel it on a human level. And also right now, not for nothing, we are struggling so much in this world right now with connecting to other people as humans and people and not seeing them as other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need that.
Amen to that.
Okay, thanks for listening to me cry for 30 minutes, you guys. Appreciate your patience with me. We're gonna keep talking about Oscars movies this month. My guess is, again, the noms haven't come out. I'm thinking we're probably gonna do one battle after another
I mean, that won the
next.
best comedy Golden Globe, so I would
Yeah.
assume it's going to get some
It's gonna
Oscar
be not again.
nods.
It's gonna be nominated for something, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody's gonna get a performance. There's gonna be something. So I think we make it one battle after another, if that sounds good to you. And then so come back next week for that one. We both already seen that one, so that's gonna be fun. And then we'll pick some more once we get some more noms.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the meantime,
follow us on our socials. We drink and we watch things on Instagram, TikTok. You can get the video of this podcast on YouTube or Spotify video, and you can always email us. We drink and we watch things pod@gmail.com.
indeed. All right. Thanks, you guys, for hanging. Wipe your tears. Go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.